Unpopular opinion, I don't think America care about Jews. I don't think America care about Muslims. You feel me? I think that America has figured out a way to use the struggle and suffering of Jewish people to forward its interests in the Middle East. Just like I think that we should never try to conflate Hamas with the entirety of Palestinians, I don't think it's smart to conflate Israel with that. The loss of innocent lives is always bad. My heart, prayers, condolences, compassion goes to all the families burying children and loved ones in Israel and in Palestine. You are able to do two things simultaneously. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can acknowledge that attacks against innocent civilians is always already bad and probably a war crime, while also acknowledging that kids were being attacked in the Gaza Strip and in Palestine before y'all started caring about it a couple days ago. I made the video already about language. When we start talking about Israeli children, we talk about them with humanity. When you talk about Palestinian children, you talk about it in a passive voice that literally rationalizes with their social death and their literal death. Killing children is bad. Killing children is bad. With that being said, do you know how many Palestinian kids' blood is in the soil of the Gaza Strip at the hands of Israeli government? Us as Americans acknowledge that there was a time that, you know what I'm saying, quote unquote, the Republicans controlled the House, the Senate, and there was a Republican president. We acknowledge that a part of our country, a great part of our country, did not agree with what the Republicans were doing with our government. When y'all start bullshitting and saying, well, the Palestinian people chose Hamas and therefore Hamas this, that, and the other, it's the same thing as if another country wanted to bomb the entirety of America because of a decision that conservatives made. Think about it as an American. If other nation states was able to make it where, hey, shit, you were what? Or think about it, you're a conservative. And other nation states want to bomb you and say fuck you because of what liberals decided to do. When y'all start talking about Hamas in relationship to Palestinians, y'all are making this jump that make it where every single time you think about Hamas, you think about the entirety of Palestinians, and that's cap. Y'all missing a lot of nuance. You see what I'm saying? There are a lot of Palestinian Israelis. There are non-Jewish Israelis. There are Jewish people that disagree with the state of Israel. It's a lot of conflating happening, and it's really hurting how we have understanding and clarity on this situation. In this video, I'm going to be explaining how international relations operate and explaining why Black people can't have dumbed down idea that if it ain't our business, then we got to stay in our business. You see what I'm saying? You hear it on. You know what I'm talking about too, man. This ain't none of Black people business. We got to mind our business. You know, what about what's happening to Black folks? Israelis or Palestinians don't care about us, so why should we care about them? You know, all of these different types of, you know what I'm saying, sentiments. This right here, though, is specifically about the ways in which international relations operate and how when you say you don't care about what's going on in the other part of the globe, how that's an asinine statement. Remember when Russia invaded Ukraine and we always complaining about gas prices? Yeah, that's because that in the international realm, there's a global community where different countries have different services, products, natural resources that they give to us. You see what I'm saying? So when you say, hey, man, we got systemic racism and inequality over here going on, we don't care about what's going on in the Gaza Strip. That statement is not only immoral and unethical, it's actually empirically false. You see what I'm saying? When you say what's going on over there don't matter over here, that is cap. Here's the book right here that changed my life. You feel me? Huey P. Newton wrote about revolutionary suicide, and he talked about the power is the ability to define the phenomenon and make it act in a desired manner. I'm gonna repeat that. Huey P. Newton said that power is the ability to define the phenomenon and make it act in a desired manner. The phenomenon that we are defining today is why Black folks should give a damn about what is happening in Palestine and in Israel, not only because of how we've always had this historical tie to this to people in Palestine, but how right now in the status quo there have been Palestinians that have given us ample amount of advice when it comes to dealing with the tear gas and the tactics that was being deployed to the brothers and sisters and non-gender conforming folks in Ferguson, Missouri when Mike Brown got killed. You feel me? Mike Brown got assassinated in Ferguson, and the Ferguson Police Department was deploying militaristic tactics onto the black people in Ferguson. Y'all know that the people in the Gaza Strip, the Palestinians specifically, created a relationship and dialogue amongst Black Americans and Palestinians, teaching us how to navigate around the tear gas and the other militaristic strategies that was occurring in Ferguson, because it was the same equipment funded by the same people that was sent over there in Palestine. Black people, we should recognize that when America is able to send money over, send $3.5 billion over to Israel, or send goddamn $40 billion over to Ukraine, that has a trade-off in how they're not able to spend resources on our community. You see what I'm saying? So when you say, why should we give a damn? Here's why you should give a damn. You know, those out-to-date books that we tired of hearing about? You know, that the school that needs to be renovated? You know, the taxpayers' dollars that need to be spent for that is being sent over there. You see what I'm saying? When you're engaged in international relations as a nation state, you have to have allies. Why would Huey P. Newton, the co-founder of the Black Panther Party of Self-Defense, go to a camp in Lebanon that is for Palestinian refugees? Why would he do that? Why? In the 1980s, we was dealing with the crack epidemic. In the 1980s, we was dealing with police brutality. In the 1980s, it was black people still eating sleep for dinner. But damn, Huey P. Newton still was able to understand how what the Palestinians was involved with had ties to what niggas was dealing with in Oakland. It takes money. I don't know y'all know this or not, but it takes money to fund government. It takes money to create policy. It takes money to fix infrastructure. When European Americans are able to send billions and trillions of dollars out into other countries because they want to make sure that they European kinfolks is taken care of, how can't you understand that this has a trade-off in how black people are literally getting the short end of the stick? Black people, specifically black people, don't become lost in the sauce of anti-Semitism or Islamophobia while we having this discussion about Israel and Palestine. I want you to acknowledge that the main beneficiaries of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism are no friends of black people. I want to acknowledge that Islamophobia and anti-Semitism are products of white supremacy, and we know that white supremacy is no friend to us as black people. So when you're talking about what's going on in Palestine and in Israel, I want you to recognize that you don't get lost in the sauce and trying to weaponize what's happening to Palestinians and being anti-Semitic towards Jewish people. I'm acknowledging there's a multiplicity in terms of being Jewish and being Muslim and being Arab and being Israeli and being Palestine, and want to make sure being Palestinian, and want to make sure that none of my words are being conflated at all, and want to make sure that we can acknowledge the nuance in what's going on. In my mind, it makes no sense for you to talk about being a foundational black American while simultaneously siding with the settler colonizer of Israel. To me, that makes no sense. You see what I'm saying? Especially if you're doing it in the name of pro-blackness, activism, revolutionary, independence for black people. It's like, do y'all know there was a Black Lives Matter movement in Israel? Meaning that even the black people that's there in Israel, they don't give a damn about it. Or think about it like this. Y'all do recognize that not all Israelis are Jewish people. And y'all know that not all Jewish people are white, right? So we identify how the Ethiopian Jews are being treated in Israel, how the other black Jews are treated in Israel, and we identify that Israel don't care about black people. What does it mean for y'all to try to pathologize this notion of free Palestine? Free Palestine to us backwards, by the way. When you learn about international relations and how the American government sends funds specifically to places in the Middle East like Bahrain, Syria, Egypt, you feel me, Israel, and you acknowledge that the way in which that they are able to conduct business and literally engage in militaristic practices, that these militaristic practices internationally trade off with the prison industrial complex domestically. So when we acknowledge that there's an intimate relationship between how America conducts itself internationally and how us black folks are treated here in America, why don't you understand or comprehend how the enthusiasm for saying free Palestine, the enthusiasm for acknowledging the ways in which we think globally and act locally and acknowledging what's going on around the world is literally tied, connected to dots to how it's operating, connected to the community. It's like, what's hard to understand about that? I'm starting to believe a lot of you FBA dudes, you feel me, is some pseudo intellectual guys that's been listening to Tariq Nasheed and watched a whole bunch of Hidden Colors documentaries, and y'all ain't about what y'all say y'all about. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna stand on that so much and say, listen, man, y'all seen y'all best debate at me. You feel me? They can pick whether I speak first to last. They can pick how long I speak. Send them. You feel me? I will intellectually bust Tariq Nasheed's ass, and I will intellectually bust any one of you FBA asses on what we talking about. The black progression, the black identity, especially when y'all want to try to engage in these diaspora wars. Let's really get back into this though, because if we can acknowledge, you know, that there is a land, sea, air blockade for individuals not being able to leave Palestine or get into Palestine, we recognize that's immoral. That's unethical. You feel me? A lot of y'all be faking in front like y'all Christians, but then when we start talking about the geopolitical climate, you start acting like the devil. You start acting like the only thing that matters is the things that you feel like are directly tied to you, and if ain't directly tied to you, then it don't matter. You acting like them Europeans, man. You're acting very un-Jesus-like, un-God. Do y'all recognize the way that Israel's constructed right now is not what Jesus or God or Yahweh constructed? That is what the British Empire constructed. You see what I'm saying? So y'all are trying to give divine entity or divine legitimacy to a nation state that was literally constructed by settler colonizers. A lot of us what's not being told to us is that during the World War I time, you feel me? The British Empire promised the Arab people of Palestine that they would get independence if they fought against the Ottoman Empire. You feel me? The Ottoman Empire was some British ops. You see what I'm saying? What happened was they finessed it though. They also gave the same promise to the Jewish people and said, hey man, if y'all do X, Y, and Z, I'll give y'all a promised land. I'll give y'all homeland. We see the conflict of interest here. You promised Palestinians independence in Palestine, but you also promised Jewish people a homeland in Palestine. Last time I checked, the British Parliament and the British Empire is not a part of the Bible. The last time I checked, I ain't never read no Bible verses about the divine nature of what the British Europeans is able to do and what they able to say. You see what I'm saying? So when y'all start talking about the Bible, you feel me, and start talking about the various ways in which how the Bible say this been going on, what does that mean for thinking about how people, Christians and Jewish and Muslims were able to live in peace and harmony way more than it is now before the British stuck their nose into what was going on? Ooh, I know some of y'all don't like reading, so we gonna. I know some of y'all don't like reading, so I'm gonna read it for you. You see what I'm saying? I'm gonna read it for you. When it comes to old Malcolm X, rest in peace, El Haj Malik Shabazz. Through his advocacy, Malcolm X linked black internationalism with the Palestinian cause, and this created a legacy of solidarity that would influence black Palestinian revolutionaries to come. When y'all start saying things like focus on this and not this and not this and not this, Malcolm X linked the black internationalism with Palestinian cause because he created a legacy and acknowledged that what was happening to the black Palestinians, what was happening to the Palestinian people and the black people, not only was very similar, literally was happening from the same entity. You feel me? Literally was being slapped with the same hand. Literally being shot with the same guns, being manufactured and pushed by the same, you see what I'm saying? So that's what we can acknowledge. Point of me showing this right now is to acknowledge that just because you're maybe coming into understanding this history just now, it don't mean the history just started. It's because you have this very self-centered American hegemonic idea that says that I'm black and I only care about issues that I think that are directly tied to black people. I don't care about what's going on in Palestine. It shows you it's cap. You see what I'm saying? Right now, I'm about to literally go through, you know, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, James Baldwin, Huey P. Newton, and many, many other black revolutionaries and civil rights movement people talked about Palestine. Why? Why would they talk about Palestine? Why? Anti-blackness is a global paradigm that makes it where everybody is implicated with an anti-blackness, even black people. That's the reason why you have so many individuals that is going through an identity crisis and they will be anything but African. They'll be anything but black. When it comes to land rights and sovereignty and conducting business in Israel, do you recognize that not all Israelis have the same access and it's basically on the lines of race? Can we acknowledge that? Can we also acknowledge this right here? That I believe that Jewish people are justified in looking at many people suspect when you only want to start condemning what's going on with them. You see what I'm saying? And you're not never talking about anti-Semitism. I recognize that there are a lot of anti-Zionists that are also anti-Semitic, and they use their anti-Zionist perspective and position to embolden their anti-Semitism. That is bad. That's wrong. The manufacturer of anti-Semitism is a white supremacist. He didn't like Negroes or Jews. I challenge y'all in this conversation that we're having. There are two concepts that are keep on raising. You feel me? And these are two concepts that are very normalized here in America. When I talk about the idea of not being lost in the sauce of Islamophobia or not being lost in the sauce of anti-Semitism, I'm acknowledging that in America, we have a particular way we've been indoctrinated to view people that are Muslim or of the Islam religion in their relationship to being a terrorist, and how it's so easy for us to project terror and saying that that's what they did. You feel me? I also acknowledge that Jewish people are positioned in a very exposable and disposable way as well. And it's a normalized way of talking about finance in relationship to Jewish people that's also anti-Semitic. In acknowledging this, there are ways for you to chew gum, you feel me, and walk at the same time and not being anti-Semitic while also criticizing the Zionist state of Israel. And also being very critical of the billions of dollars that America sends over to Israel. It's a lot of nuance that has to take place in the conversation. If not, it creates a lot of rhetorical violence and material violence. You see what I mean? For instance, there are a lot of Israeli people in my comment section, specifically on Facebook, that are being extremely anti-Black. I acknowledge as a Black American, however, me responding to them with anti-Semitism will also be immoral because the entirety of the Jewish community is not in my comment section. You feel me? It's a couple hundred Israeli people. You feel me? When y'all talked about Erica Mena calling Shorty a monkey, we acknowledge that, hey, this because you feel like this individual offended you, or you feel like this individual that said something wild to you, it don't justify you disrespecting the entire group. When you're talking about the Jewish identity, make sure that you have the complexity that it deserves. When you talk about Jewish people, don't just think about white Ashkenazi Jews. Don't do that. That's how white supremacy operates. It wants to create monoliths. All lives being taken is bad, man. There is a lot of people that's going to want to sensationalize how what they believe, you feel me, and what they saying was going down, and saying that the only thing that's going down is what's going down right now. They ain't gonna tell you about how, you feel me, from 2008 to 2023, there was over 6,000 Palestinian deaths compared to 300 Israeli deaths. And to be clear, all lives matter. To be clear, anytime an innocent civilian is being knocked off, that's crazy. That's wild. That being said, they've been knocking off innocent civilians and Palestinians for decades. What an outrage at.
Watch this.
Be prepared. Be prepared.
Person, for example, who happens to be the media's pick for president of the United States.
This is not just an attack on Israel. This is an attack on America, because they hate us just as much. And what we have to understand is this is the reason that we have to unite around making sure our enemies do not hurt our friends. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends, just like we needed them on 9/11. That's why Ukraine needs us when Russia's doing this. That's why Israel needs us when Hamas and Iran are doing this. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it.
Y'all heard what she said, right? As an American citizen that believe a lot of fuckery be going on with the Republicans, I couldn't imagine Iran being like, man, the conservatives did some shit, bomb all of them.
Finish them. They should have hell to pay for what they've just done.
This was an attack on America, she says, when in fact it was not. And for that reason, we must, quote, finish Iran, a nation of nearly 90 million people.
90 million people? Finish them. Is Iran considered a Muslim state? We're talking about Islamophobia as well. And being a former college policy debater and somebody that got a degree in African-American studies, when you start to learn about anti-Blackness and you learn about the history of anti-Blackness, you see that Islamophobia was one of the first forms that anti-Blackness that a lot of us people on the plantation saw, because a lot of us came over to the plantation as being Muslim. You know what I mean? And as a result, a lot of the ways that America was able to master how to deploy Islamophobia, it was perfected against Black people. Do y'all think it's ironic that they just openly calling for wiping out these nation states and these places that are full of Muslim people? See, when I think about Islamophobia, right, I think about how a lot of liberals specifically get the ways of lying to us and acting like they corner the market and give a damn about people when they actually don't. See, I think that liberals had really convinced us that they give a damn about Muslim people. You feel me? When Donald Trump was in office. But see, I know what Barack Obama was doing to predominantly Muslim populations when he was in office for 8 years. So I call bullshit. If Donald Trump or the conservatives start talking some shit about some Muslims, y'all all over that. The conservatives, but these liberals start talking about some shit, then yeah, is this, you know what I'm saying? You want to be fair too. The clip I'm playing right now is conservatives, but I thought I would just point that out right now, is that there is a lot of pump faking, acting like people are humanitarians, people acting like they care about the humanity of Muslims, when you really pick and choose how you care about Muslims and how it has relationship to your political interests.
What are we watching here? This is not sober leadership. She's a child, and this is the tantrum of a child. Ignorant, cocksure, bloodthirsty.
Can we just take a moment to think we are agreeing? Dude, I agree with every word that Tucker Carlson is saying in this video. That make me scared a little bit, man.
Yet no one in Washington scolded her for it. In fact, they aped her hysteria. Here's fellow neocon Lindsey Graham just spelling it out and calling for the bombing of Iran.
So I've been on the phone all day to the Mideast, and I've told our allies and people with connections to Iran, what I would do, I would tell Iran that if Hezbollah attacks Israel, we're going to come after you, the Iranians, and have a coordinated effort between the United States and Israel to put Iran out of the oil business by destroying their refineries. There are 4 major refineries.
Brother said it in lame as plain, man. Shout out to you, Frank Johnson. I definitely appreciate you, Free Palestine. But this Lindsey Graham just said it in plain terms, man. Let's rewind this back a little bit. Fam literally just said that he want to wipe out these folks, Iran, because he want to have better business. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about that. All the shit that white conservatives do to chastise Black people for being on some thug bug criminal shit, and they manufacture and they are conducting the gangster activity better than Black folks. It's mind-boggling to me. Anytime they want to sensationalize what GDs and BDs is doing for turf wars in Chicago, they love to say it's some uncivil, you see what I'm saying, irrational shit, you know? But our American government can engage in gangster, criminal, thug-like mentalities and is seen as being patriotic. When I was in the 5th grade at Kemp Elementary, the date was September 11th, 2001. There were 19 individuals that decided to fly a plane into some buildings. And as a result, the entirety of our country unified in opposition against Arabs and Muslims. When that happened, the next week in school, that's what we talked about, 9/11 attack. As a 5th grader, I knew when people was playing with me. Right now, there's a narrative that said that, hey, man, these Muslim Arabs, they just hate Israeli Jewish people for no reason, and they just doing this for no reason. We don't know why they doing this to us. They just hate us. That's the same narrative that was given to me when the 19 individuals flew the plane into the buildings during the 9/11 attack. Just because they just don't like America. They just hate Americans. That narrative lacks so much context. And it's a part of the Western idea of how the Arab is positioned. As a Black man, in America, when people get pain as being irrational, I feel some type of way. You know, Black people, we rally, we protest, we cry, we beg, we try to make lawsuits, we try to go to the United Nations and League of Nations. We try everything to make sure that we're getting taken care of and to literally speak out against the brutality and speak out against the terror that our state is putting on to us. And when Black people start burning shit down, the world started being like, why y'all doing this? As if we haven't been rallying, we haven't been protesting, we haven't been, you know what I'm saying, trying to have lawsuits and trying to get policy and trying to build organizations and trying to cry and beg and whine and pray and all that. You see what I'm saying? Likewise, the Israelis have been doing the same thing, man. They didn't peacefully protest. They got killed for it. You see what I'm saying? Hey, this really what fucked me up, and this is how I feel like the reason why I'm standing on this, like I'm standing on this, is that Huey P knew me talk about thinking globally and acting locally. I'm not just thinking about Palestine right now because the rest of the world's thinking about Palestine. You feel me? It was a few months ago on Instagram, I got a community guideline violation for posting a Palestinian child running for his life from an Israeli police and literally having a heart attack, dropping dead when he made it to the door, because at 5 years old, he already understood what it meant to be a Palestinian in the Gaza Strip and understood that he was being hunted potentially by this Israeli police officer, and he literally had a heart attack out of fear. We got people living in open air prisons. We got people that's being openly hunted, starved out, 16 years outright blockade. And the thing I find also that's disingenuous is a lot of people is trying to explain away what's happening with Israel and Palestine was starting with Hamas. Hamas didn't get established until the 1980s. This land disposition and settler colonizing been going on since like 1917. So it's a lot of context that's being missed in this. A lot of context being missed in this. And that's a shame. All of my work is concerned with power, domination, oppression, privilege, and concerns to identity. And me understanding how power and domination operates with an identity, I acknowledge there is a lot of difference amongst identities. All Jewish people don't stand with Israel, right? There are a lot of anti-Zionist Jews. I also acknowledge there are a lot of anti-Semitic folks that like to hide behind anti-Zionism to try to, you feel me, justify it. I'm condemning that and saying that's bad. I'm also acknowledging there are different ways in how we are indoctrinated by Islamophobia, and we throw that word terrorist around when we start talking about Palestinians and people that are Muslim. Black people, the world, but specifically the black people, always remember that white supremacy want us to believe that we're all the same and that we all can't be different. You feel me? There's no need for you to debate me about who you are. There's no need for me to debate you about who I am. If you Hebrew Israelite, it's fine, man. Be Hebrew Israelite. Hope you can be the most ethical, moral Hebrew Israelite you can be, and you don't engage in no type of white supremacist tools and trying to dictate and police other people's identity like what you call Esau, whatever you want to call it. Feel me? If you say you are Aboriginal and you Indian and you done your genealogy and you did this and you did that, and you see, that's fine. That's fine. That's cool and dandy. You feel me? I respect that you see what I'm saying? You indigenous. I respect you Hebrew. The issue that I have, the beef that I have with you is when you start trying to say that we all Hebrew, we all indigenous Americans. That's the beef. You see what I'm saying? But I know that to me is that I feel like we just on different frequencies and I just didn't move past that shit. Is that if we're sitting in the street, you got a Moor, a Hebrew Israelite, a Black Indian, an African, a Black American, a Jewish person, a Black Jewish person, you feel me, a Jamaican, and we all walking down the street. Do you think that we're gonna be policed differently based off of our ethnicity or nationality? Like, I think that a lot of these Black identity debates have become so archaic and so stuck in the past that it's like, if y'all understood the difference between race, ethnicity, and nationality, you would go far. You would go far. Instead, you wanted to debate people about whether you Native American and you think that that's supposed to create a debate. You might be Native American. There is a, yes, there were Black people present in the Americas before Europeans were. Yes, there were Black people or people of African descent, you feel me, whatever you want to call them, that were circumnavigating the world at the time that the Europeans thought the world was flat. Yes, there was a lot of cultural exchange that was happening, you feel me, amongst different cultures that were not European because they thought the world was flat at that time. They were, yes, that's so yes. Yes. So the thing about being a Pan-Africanist or understanding the Black diaspora is that we are dispersed throughout this world. And because I understand we're dispersed throughout this world, the way that our culture and our language and our beliefs, our nationality and ethnicity is set up, it's going to be very different throughout the world. You see what I'm saying? Or even throughout America. You know, there were Black Seminoles and Black Cherokees. You feel me? There were also Black Africans that came on the boat. You know what I mean? So the fact that y'all still in 2023, they're like listen, right now, we all being murdered and we all being killed and we all being locked up, regardless of whether you believe you are Black, Indigenous, American, Indian, or you believe you a Hebrew Israelite, whether you believe you are African or you believe that you are a Semite, whether you believe that you are a Moorish or you believe, like, we can acknowledge that regardless of how you identify, that does not supersedes how white supremacy is going to police your Black body. So the fact that you want to sit around in 2023 while we are being targeted and being policed, you see what I'm saying? That's what you want to focus on. To me, it's very telling of not only your intellect, but of your character. White supremacy wants us to believe that Blackness is a monolith and that all Black people are the same. We're not. We're not. In order for us to have the same type of international community, the way in which white people are able to come together and share resources and create the UN and all that old shit, they're able to do that because there are times they're able to just be in kinship and set their petty differences to the side and make it where the people that's not with them is not with them and the people that's for them is for them. You see what I'm saying? When y'all start saying, hey, man, you should only focus on what's going on with us, don't focus on what's going on with them. You don't know about how Cuba, you feel me, Fidel Castro was in cahoots and really in solidarity with Black people in the Americas. You don't know about how throughout South America there were different, you feel me, Latinx or you feel me, indigenous people that were in cahoots and in coalition with Black people. You don't know about how Pan-Africanism literally involved different people throughout Africa that had different cultures, different ethnicities, different nationalities, being able to talk about having a collective economy. What you know about Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? Or do you only know about Muammar Gaddafi in Libya about what the West taught you? So when you read about the Gullah Geechee people and you think about how the Gullah Geechee people was literally, the Gullah Geechee people was literally individuals that got off the boat in, like, you know what I'm saying, between Georgia and the Carolinas. And they literally created communities, they call them maroonages, with indigenous peoples. And they called the Gullah Geechee Wars, right? So when y'all say that there's no such thing as no slave boat and that, you know what I'm saying, this, that, and the other, like, how do you account for the Gullah Geechee people? You see what I'm saying? No, they lied to us. We got reclassified. We was Negroes. Deuteronomy, bondage, this, that, and the other. How can you make that claim with the presence of the Gullah Geechee people that still have the knowledge of cultivation of rice that they were able to practice when they were in Africa? How are you able to make those claims? How? There's a multiplicity in Blackness and Black people. Yes, there are tribes of Black people that got ran up out of Jerusalem in Israel and got pushed, you feel me, south and then west. Yes, you feel me? I have a master's degree in human relations. And when I got that master's degree in human relations, I learned knowledge about human migration and migration patterns, right? And what I know is that typically people usually migrate from east to west because you're able to keep the same climate particularly. You see what I mean? So there are a lot of, as a matter of fact, I know that the national story of the Ghanaian people talk about being children of Israel. So America got this, you know what I'm saying, Pledge of Allegiance type shit or this thing. I know that literally there are different African nations that talk about themselves as being children of Israel. So I'm not negating that there are people within the African diaspora, within the Black diaspora that migrated from this place to this place. There's a multiplicity in Blackness and Black people. TheConsciousLead.com. Education is elevation. Free Palestine till it's backwards. Thoughts and prayers, condolences, compassion, you feel me, to everybody that's burying kids and loved ones during this crazy time. Be very mindful of the narratives that you are taking in. Always ask the question, who's telling the story? Who benefits from how this story is being told? And who in this story is not being told about, though they are a part of the story?